All right. Our first code talk, we are going to make a button. We're going to start real simple. We're going to make a button. Now, I do want the button to be a little fancy, meaning I want it to work the same way that a button works in Windows, in Microsoft Windows. So I'm going to go over to properties on this text document here just to show you what I mean. So let's say I want to press this button here. So when I hover over it, it changes color. We won't do that for this one, but notice this right here. When I click on it and I hold it down, if I move off of it, my mouse button is still held down. If I move off of it and let go, it doesn't activate that button. But if I click on it and hold my mouse button down, move away from it, my mouse button is still held down, go back to it and let go while I'm on it, it opens up this window here, right? So if I click and hold, move away, let go, it doesn't do it. But if I click on it and let go while I'm still on it, it activates. How can I do that? We'll have to break that down step by step because that's a lot. But first things first, let's go ahead and get a button. So I'm in the choose a sprite button right here. I'm going to go ahead and choose button 3 right here. And in the costume, we see we have button 3A and button 3B. So A is gray and B is blue. Cool. All right. So your first instinct might be to go ahead and choose the when sprite clicked, but I don't like that. I like to put everything under when green flag clicked. So everything runs along with the rest of my code. So we're going to go ahead and start with that, when green flag clicked. Now, first thing we're going to do is make sure that as soon as the program starts, it switches to the correct costume, which is the gray one, the not pressed one, right? I'm also going to move this button to X0, Y0. That's not necessary. I just like things to be perfectly in the middle because, yeah, I like things nice and neat like that. All right. Anyway, so next thing we're going to do is add a forever loop. So that's going to run for throughout our code. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start and think about what that button did, right? So if we hover over it and our mouse goes down, we want it to change color, right? We're pressing the button down. So we're not doing anything yet. We're not running any code for what we want our button to do, but we're just changing the color. So we can do that. So we have the if touching mouse pointer. And then we have under operators, the green buttons, we have the and. So if the sprite, if the mouse is touching the sprite, and if I go back to the blue one, sensing, and I say, and the mouse is down, right? We can put this inside of an if statement. Then we can run some code to make it change color. So here we could just say, right, switch costume to B. Only problem with this is it's never going to turn back until I restart the program. Stop code, run code again. Okay, great. Now it's gray. Obviously, that's not good. So we need some other control. So here we could say repeat until, right? And then we can throw that in there. And now we can just kind of do the opposite of this. We could say if not touching mouse pointer or not mouse down, not touching mouse pointer or not mouse down, then we go back to the or I'm sorry, we're here, and then we have to say button A is at the end. Switch back to button A. There we go. So now if we're touching the sprite with our mouse and the mouse goes down, then we're going to change the color to B until we're not doing that. Either one, which is why we used or. Right? So look at that. Now I move my mouse away. it's no longer blue. My mouse is still being held down though. So when I go back, it turns blue again. And if I leave my finger off my mouse, it also goes back to gray. So whether I leave it or I lift my finger, which is exactly what we wanted. But now what we want to do is we want to run some code, right? If my mouse is still on the button, but my finger is off of the click. The mouse is not down. So we can just do another if statement for this one, right? So here we can just do if, so similar to this, we could say that I believe we want and for this one, but I could be wrong. So I'm just going to try it. If we're touching the mouse pointer, yes, but the mouse is not down. So we just need to add a not to this one. Then we can run some code. So let's say hello for 2 seconds and switch the costume back to A. There we go. Zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to test this and we'll see if it works. And if it does work, perfect. We'll walk through it real quick. Okay, so I'm going to stop the code. Let's go through this step by step. So when the green flag is clicked, right, meaning our program starts, we switch to gray, just in case there was some kind of bug and it switched to blue, and it was left blue at the end of the program. Like I guess maybe if I were to click it, maybe, and then somehow stop the program. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. It might be possible. So it's good to leave this as a bug defeating feature there, right? So as soon as the green flag is clicked, we reset to gray. Great. Okay. Now forever, all right, this is the main body of our program here. If we're touching the sprite, the button, with our mouse pointer and the mouse pointer is down, meaning we've clicked the button, right? We're going to repeat until we're either we've either left the button with our cursor, right? Meaning it's not pressed on the cursor anymore, or our mouse button is not pressed down anymore. Either one of those. And that's why we had to switch it to or, because this won't do that functionality where if we were to move it off of it and my mouse is still down, right? I would have to both lift the finger off of my mouse button and leave the button if this was and. So we want that, we want the or there to be able to replicate how buttons work normally on Windows. All right, so that's important to leave that as or. All right, now the next one, and this is switching it to blue, right? So we're still blue unless, right? That's what this next if statement is. If we're still touching it with our mouse pointer and the mouse is not down, then we'll do the code. But if we're not still touching it, then we're just gonna switch the button back to gray, but not do anything. And that leaves us with a button that works. If I click the button, like we normally would click the button, it says hello. Click it, it says hello. But if I click and hold it, move off of it, and let go, nothing. I click and hold, move off of it, move back onto it, let go while I'm still on it, says hello. Just like a button works in Windows. We could make this a little fancier and add a third costume, maybe a lighter blue or a darker gray for when I hover over it. And I'll leave that for you to figure out how to do that. But this is it. Last thing I wanted to show you though was how to put this in your backpack so that you could use this for the rest of Scratch, because you're going to want to make buttons in a lot of different programs, right? So that's where this backpack comes in handy. But before you throw something in your backpack, it's a good idea to go ahead and leave a comment for it. So I'm going to take the green flag off because I'm going to assume that most programs are going to have that on it already, and you want to throw this into a program, right? So actually, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I want to put that green flag back because this is just for the button itself. Okay, so what I was saying was you're going to want to add a comment so that you know what this does, because maybe you forgot. Maybe you haven't watched this video in a while and you kind of forgot exactly what this code does. We can leave a comment. So we can say, all right, this is the code for a button. Just switch the, maybe I'll say just change the switch costume functions to the names of the costumes for your button, and change the say hello function to the code you want to run. When the button is pressed. Perfect. So now if I take this and I put it in the backpack, now I have some code for buttons. So now I could completely leave this code and start a new program, throw this out, and I've got my comment, so I know how it works. But this should still work. Oop, green flag clicked. That's a big part of it. There you go. And then if I wanted this to not say hello, maybe I wanted it to do something else, like maybe change the backdrop, perhaps. So there you go. Change the backdrop to the Arctic. When green flag clicked. Switch backdrop to backdrop 1. And in the button, switch backdrop to the Arctic if that button is pressed. Run the code, click the button, boom, Arctic. No Arctic, no Arctic, no Arctic, Arctic. That's it. That is how to create a fancy button in Scratch.